What's up, everyone? Welcome to the video. We are here talking the Thursday Night Football Showdown slate for DraftKings and FanDuel. Another barn burner here with the Denver Broncos taking on the Indianapolis Colts, which features a astounding 43-point over-under. 3.5 points spread, though, so at least it should be close. But both of these teams aren't going to really get you too excited. But there are some fun skill position players to talk about, and I guess Russell Wilson. Interesting, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. The football has not been very good from him this year, especially with the massive contract that he has. But, you know, we always have the hot topic of his cringe and corny jokes. But this game could be worse, so I won't complain too much. And if this is your first time here, we typically go through each position, kind of group it by team, so it's nice and orderly. And then I'll build a lineup as we progress through it. And then I'll run the optimizer at the end to see who's popping the most as of right now. And also, just a little introduction so you know who's talking to you. My name is Chris Pennell. I break down NASCAR and NFL DFS each and every single week on this channel. Also a contributor over on Stokastic, formerly known as Osmo, doing some live before lock shows for NASCAR and baseball, and writing some tournament articles over on the website. And if you do end up enjoying today's free content, the only thing I ask in return, if you can leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and hit that bell so you're notified whenever I post new content. And feel free to leave a comment down below saying whatever you wanted to say, because I have no control over you. And also, we're pretty close to 10K subs, so I don't think we're going to get there in this video, but I do appreciate everyone that is subbing recently, because we are very close to that goal. And don't forget to check out the sponsor of the show, Prize Picks, because they do make these videos possible. And as of right now, if you're new, signing up on the website, promo code CPEN can get you an instant deposit match bonus up to $100. It is free money. Use it to your advantage. There's no strings attached to that. You can either use the link down below in the description, or have it at prizepicks.com, and it's a blast to play on. Highly recommend it. With that being said, I think that's it for the plug. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. And as always, we will start with the quarterbacks. And if you do want access to the sheet that I am showing you guys, cover it for main slates. It's got the entire player pool, cheat sheet, projections, ownership projections, and the optimizer that I will run at the end so you can use it for yourself. Links down below in the description for that. Everything's pretty cheap compared to most people, and I think the quality of work is pretty solid. So if you want to check it out, you know where to find it. But anyway, let's talk some quarterbacks here. We have Russell Wilson, $10,400. Definitely not what the Broncos are probably expecting from Russell Wilson to start this season, because it has not been worth, I would say, $200+ million. Only 245 passing yards per game, one passing touchdown, throwing the ball 31 times per game, 7.5 yards per attempt. And while he's athletic enough to get some rushing yards, you can't really count on it too much. He's not like a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts type, even though he is athletic, but just under 13 rushing yards per game. So, while it's not much, I mean, you can kind of get a baked-in point floor for that, but it's not really anything too substantial. But either way, the Colts, they are 27th DVOA versus the pass of the season, kind of mid-pack in terms of fantasy points allowed per game in the quarterback position. If this was a main slate, I don't think I'm playing Russell Wilson, but I do have him projected at 18.5 points currently, and that is the best on this slate, and the price point's not terrible either. So while I don't normally put quarterbacks that don't run the ball too much in the captain spot on this slate, I think it's fine just from a raw projection standpoint. And it's not like he's super expensive. It's not like he's $12,000 at 10-4. I think it makes sense. Now in tournaments, yeah, I would try to get some more exposure to these skill position players, because for Russell Wilson to have a great game, he's got to have some of his pass catching options to have a great game as well. So I think it makes more sense in tournaments. He might be a little bit over-owned in the captain spot just because he's a quarterback that has to rely on other guys. But I'm fine with him anywhere in really all formats. And I think in cash games, he does make sense in the captain spot as well, and really anywhere too. And Matt Ryan, $9,600. He has not been great this season as well, and the Colts really haven't looked that great at times, and only a 19.75 implied team total here for the Colts. They do find themselves as 3.5-point dogs on the road in Mile High in the elevation. He's been just under 300 passing yards per game, not too much in the touchdown department, throwing the ball a few more times than Russell Wilson, and 76% completion percentage, and we know he's just got about zero rushing upside whatsoever. And the Broncos defensively, they've been kind of tough versus the quarterback position so far, ranking the third fewest points per game to the position in 6th DVOA versus the pass. Ryan's fine. I'm not going to force him in my lineups, but let's just say, for example, if I've got Pittman in the captain spot or something like that, I think it would make some sense to get some correlation there. We will see if Jonathan Taylor plays. If he does not, I could see them throwing the ball a bit more, so that could make Matt Ryan a little bit more appealing. But at the same time, you have to the defenses would have to respect the run a little bit less. And it might just be tougher for Matt Ryan to be as efficient. So not a awesome play by any means, but anytime you can get a quarterback below 10K on a showdown slate, you just at least have to filter them in your lineups. And moving over to our lineup, not going to do anything too crazy here. I'm just going to plug Russell Wilson in the captain spot. Now, if you're playing large field tournaments, I feel like it makes more sense to maybe, if you want to use Russell Wilson, maybe pair in a Cortland Sutton or Judy in the captain spot, but just for this build, I'm going to go the Russell Wilson route. And moving on to the running back position, we have some injuries to talk about really on both teams. Now, we know for the Broncos, there's no question marks there. We know Javonte Williams tore his ACL. He is going to be out for this game, obviously, in the games in the future. But let's talk the Colts here first, because we have everyone's number one overall pick this year, or at least almost everyone's, Jonathan Taylor in fantasy football drafts. He is currently questionable for this game. And this isn't just a, your normal questionable for a running back that's banged up. This is a legit questionable. We'll see if he ends up playing or not. Has not, I believe, estimated to be in practice, even though it's been walkthroughs. He's in a walking boot. So we will see if he plays or not. If he does play, maybe he's not 100%. It's not like he's been super amazing this year anyway, but he's someone I would certainly want in my rosters, at least here and there. But you will certainly have to be careful. Now, we just saw Josh Jacobs tear up the Broncos. I want to say at nearly 40 fantasy points. They're 20th EVA versus the run this year. Still on the 8th fewest points per game to the position, but Taylor's good to go. I mean, this is just mainly a waiting game. If he happens to be out, Nyheim Hines becomes a pretty good value at $6,800, especially if you think the Colts are playing from behind because he can get those dump-offs. But then Deion Jackson at $1,600, he would certainly have more of a Jonathan Taylor role. I don't think Nyheim Hines would become a workhorse back where he's getting you 20 plus carries. So keep an eye on the situation here, because if Taylor is out, that does open up some value for guys like Nyheim Hines and Deion Jackson, even though he didn't play any snaps. But when Taylor's playing nearly 90% of the snaps, and you have Nyheim Hines as your pass catching role, you don't really have any need for Jackson, but this could obviously change. And then for the Denver Broncos, with Javonte Williams out, it was already kind of a split with him and Melvin Gordon. Obviously, everyone views him as the alpha dog, but once you remove him from the situation, leaves Melvin Gordon as the 1A here. And I wouldn't really want to call Mike Boone the 1B, but we know Denver loves to split up their snaps with running backs. But both these guys are certainly going to be interesting. Obviously, Melvin Gordon we have to view as the main back here at this price point, $8,800. Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting for a home running back that's a favorite, 3.5 point favorite at home in Denver. And while I'm not a huge fan of Melvin Gordon so far this season, 3.8 yards per carry and just under 10 rushing attempts per game, and also a few targets mixed in there as well. So at the price point, I mean, I think you're just kind of forced into playing him, especially if you're in a cash game format, and the Colts have him bottom half in the league as far as fantasy points allowed per game to the position. So yes, I do like Melvin Gordon, even though I'm not a huge fan of him these days. Mike Boone seems a bit expensive, but he's going to have a role in this offense. But they did say Melvin Gordon is going to be the featured back. So if he was a little bit cheaper, I'd have more interest. So not going to be huge on Mike Boone here. Although if you are playing tournaments, you'll definitely have some leverage because Melvin Gordon is going to be very popular at his price point. And moving back over to our lineup, I'm not sure if we're going to plug in Taylor yet or not. We'll see what fits at the end. I'll try to leave a lot of salary remaining. But we're just going to plug in Melvin Gordon for right now at this price point. Yes, I know he's questionable. He's going to be good to go for this game. And we still have over $6,000 remaining for the final four spots. And we already have the RB1 and Russell Wilson plugged in. So we should be pretty flexible here on what we want to do. And moving on to wide receivers, we will start with the Colts here first because Michael Pittman's the first guy that pops up. And they have a lot of guys that play a decent amount of snaps. So it's a bit of a mess here. Outside of Pittman, he's going to obviously be the alpha dog here, but we have Pittman at $10,600. Then we have Alec Pierce at $5,400, who played on half the snaps last week. Ashton Dillon on 30% of the snaps. Paris Campbell played on nearly 70%. He's $3,600. Then we have Michael Strahan here at $200, who played on 14% of the snaps, but he's only receiving a 5% target share this year. And if you're looking at the target distribution, Pittman at 24% did miss the 1 week, though. Alec Pearson at 11%, Dillon 11%, although there was the 1 week where he was basically the wide receiver one, so that could be skewed a little bit. Campbell at 8%. It's really ugly. Like, this offense is terrible so far this season. Even Jonathan Taylor doesn't look that great, so it's hard to get too excited about any of these guys. Obviously, Pittman's going to be the one you want to get to, hit his nearly 10 targets per game, and we know how talented he is. And Matt Ryan always seems to have a wide receiver one that can produce for fantasy purposes. So while it's a really tough matchup here, because Denver's cornerback, he is really, really good, arguably the best corner in the league. He can definitely lock a guy down. I don't really care about wide receiver versus cornerback matchups too much, so I'm not going to get, too lost into that. But it's definitely a tougher matchup, and they are allowing the third fewest points per game to the wide receiver position in their 60 versus the pass. So I got Pittman projected for him 15 points. I have Sutton projected higher, so if I had to choose between the two, I think I would go with Sutton over Pittman. But either way, if he fits, you have to play some Pittman just because it's a showdown slate. But I'm just saying, if this is like a main slate, I'm probably not touching Pittman in this spot. And then the rest of these guys, sure, you can play them. I'm not going out of way to play an Alec Pierce or an Ashton Dillon, but if they just happen to be last piece fit guys, I'm all right with it. And then moving on to the Broncos, this one's a bit easier because there's really three guys that we saw get snaps last week. The rest are just kind of there. But the main two, We have Cortland Sutton at $9,400. I think he should probably be the most expensive wide receiver on the slate, so I do think you're getting a nice price point there. And Jerry Judy's only $7,800, so it's pretty easy to fit those two in to pair with Russell Wilson, so stacking won't be a problem with those two. Then after that is where it gets a little bit weird. Kendall Hinton, I should say. Remember when he played quarterback? Was that last year or 2 years ago? I forget when, but either way, he's only $1,000. I know he's back down in the practice squad, but they keep elevating him, so I'm going to assume he plays. He played on nearly 60% of the snaps last week. Also had a few targets and a couple of catches. He's only $1,000, assuming he's on the roster and playing. I mean, I think projection-wise, I'll have him around 3 to 5 points. That's not bad at his price. That's not too far from what I have for Paris Campbell, and he's $2,600 more expensive, and it's just another option to pair with Russell Wilson. Then after that, you have Hamler, who has a lot of speed, but he has a target per game this year and a 3% target share. And then Washington's just the guy that you hope sees the field, so I don't really have interest there. But looking at target distribution so far this season, Sutton's definitely the guy, 20% target share, nearly a 40% market share. Other teams, air yards, Jerry Judy at nearly 17%. I think I'll remember the long touchdown he had. I think it was week 1 in the showdown slate. Outside of that, though, it wasn't a super impressive game. Then Hamler's at 3% target share, Hinton's at just under 6%, and then we have Washington at a 2%. So really, it's two main guys here, and then assuming Hinton's on the field, I mean, I like him at $1,000 too. And then moving back over to our lineup, the only thing I'm going to do as of right now, I'm going to plug in Cortland Sutton to pair with Russell Wilson. Now in tournaments, I have no problem at all if I'm going to put Sutton in the captain spot and then Russell Wilson in the flex spot. I feel like that might make a little bit more sense, but I'm fine with this right now. We have just over $5,000 left for the last 3 spots. Should be pretty easy peasy to fit whatever in we want. And then moving on to tight ends, we'll start with the Colts here first, and actually the first two guys that pop up. We have Mo Alley-Cox, $4,800, who's a very large man. He is massive when you see him on the field. Then we have Kylan Granson at $3,200. Both these guys are involved in the offense, although we did see Mo Alley-Cox kind of have a breakout game last week. It was really nice to see, looking at their numbers on the season so far. Both very similar. I mean, both around 30 yards per game, just around 2.5 catches, and right around 3 to 3.5 targets. Cox has the touchdown, though, 10% target shares for both of these guys. Like, very two similar plays. Granson plays a little bit less snaps, but it's still nearly 50% of the time. So I'm fine with both, but you're getting a nice discount with Granson, so I feel like I might end up there a little bit more. I do think people will chase the big game we saw from Mo Cox last week, but both guys are fine. No problem with either. Just really kind of whatever fits with your lineup. Then for the Denver Broncos, we actually have a pretty nice value play here, I think, with Eric Saubert at $1,200. I don't even know how to pronounce Alberto's last name, so I'm not going to try that. But he played 1 snap last week, 2% of the snaps. It seems like he's getting phased out a bit, and it's hard to have him on the field because when he's on the field, I think teams know they're probably passing the ball. So he's kind of dust at this point. I don't really see myself playing him here at $2,000. I just can't trust the guy that saw 1 snap last week. So Saubert actually put on nearly, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Saubert, Sherbert, whatever you want to call him, I don't care. He put on nearly 80% of the snaps last week, target and a half per game this year. It's not pretty, but if he can just get you a couple targets, maybe catch 1 or 2, maybe he finds the end zone, I'm not totally sure, but at $1,200, I don't mind it. He's kind of right there with Kendall Hinton as being one of the best value plays on the slate. Tomlinson plays a decent amount of snaps, but he's mainly just a blocker. So really, for me, it's going to be Saubert from the Broncos, and that's about it. But if you do think Alberto's snaps go up again, he is cheap at $2,800, but just kind of tough to trust. And then my favorite parts of showdowns, we have defenses and kickers, and I hate when defenses score touchdowns. I really do. I was underweight on the 49ers defense. I mean, I still had them. I think they came in around 18-20% on FanDuel. I played 13%, so I wasn't like too under, but I'm always underweight on defenses. But whenever they score touchdowns, I always say I'll take the L, and I took the L. I did not profit on that slate, so I'm going to take the same approach here. Like, they're fine to play. I'm going to play some of these defenses. I don't really think it's going to be too high scoring of a game. I prefer the Broncos over the Colts because their offense just hasn't looked that great. Not that Denver's really been incredible this year, but I'm definitely going to have more exposure to Broncos players than I am Colts. But not in the captain spot for me. And just say, for example, I don't remember what I have them projected ownership-wise, but let's say I had the Broncos at 20%. I'd probably be around 10%. And then as for the kickers, find flex plays. I don't put them in the captain spot. I mean, yeah, if you're building 150, sometimes they filter into 1 to 2% of the time, but more than likely, we're not going to see a kicker in the captain spot. But we are in the elevation in Denver, so some of these longer field goals are easily more attainable, at least. But I'm not going to go out of my way to play a kicker, but in cash games, I think usually getting the one with the higher implied team total is a good way to go about it. I have them both projected for around 8 points. Just really whatever fits, I'm fine. And then moving back over to our lineup, and please don't copy and paste this. I build 150 lineups every showdown. I don't know which one I'm going to like the most. This is just an example of what fits as we talk through it. I mean, you can steal it, but I'm not recommending it. So either way, let's see. We have $54 left per player. I want to plug in one of these value guys here just to see how much money we'll have left. So for me, I like Hinton. So he gets elevated again. And then we have Eric Sauber here at $1,200. It's a bit of a coin flip here. Let's just plug in Hinton. Just another option here with Russell Wilson. That's $7,600 left. If we throw in a kicker, because I want to try to get one of these high-end options in. So let's just say, for example, we plug in Jonathan Taylor. That leaves us $4,200 left, and you could go with the Broncos defense or Brandon McManus. I'd probably prefer McManus there. I like the kickers usually more than defenses, and that's $200 left. Or if you wanted to go up to the tight end, that works too. Or if Jonathan Taylor ends up not playing, obviously that would change a lot of things besides just a switch here, but you could plug in Pittman. So pretty flexible. And if you take out Wilson, the captain spot, Sutton, that gets you some extra money as well. So plenty of ways to go. Don't just copy and paste something you see on YouTube. Please think for yourself. And moving over to the optimizer, if you want access to it, link is down below. You can build groups, settings, randomness, all the fun stuff. Export it right to DraftKings. But we're just going to raw dog it here. No settings, no groups, anything like that. Just want to see what the raw projections like the most. Going to crunch 150 and then let me back up at you after it's done. And it looks like we finally got it to crunchers. Let's pull up the player pool and see who's popping the most. So Cortland Sutton in the flex, 63%. I think that definitely makes sense at his price point. Lots of Russell Wilson, lots of Judy. Projecting Taylor in as of right now. If he's out, that does change some things. A lot of McLaughlin. So yeah, pretty much all the guys we liked as we talked about it, and some of the guys who threw in the lineup are popping as of right now. So makes sense to me. Obviously, if you are someone that does do MME, you have to play around with the builds, make sure you have your right group settings, and probably not have Sauber in your captain spot. As you can see, that's the first time that pops up here. It does get you whatever you want, but I don't think I'd really recommend that. But you can check it out if you want. Links down below if you do want access to it. With that being said, that's all I got for you guys. If you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you're new and you think you're going to keep coming back. We're close to 10K. Absolutely awesome. Truly do appreciate it. But I wish you all the best of luck. Hope you all smash, and hopefully this game is better than kind of what I'm expecting.